Did you know that the most profitable product in human history isn't gold, oil, or even the smartphone in your hand? It's something far more abstract and powerful. Debt. How did this happen? How did a tool meant for survival and community support transform into the engine of our global economy, a system that both builds fortunes and traps millions? This is the story of how you, the borrower, became the product. Let's rewind thousands of years to ancient Mesopotamia. In these early agricultural societies, debt wasn't a business, it was a lifeline. If your harvest failed, your neighbor would lend you grain, not to make a profit, but to ensure you survived until the next season. This was a system built on trust and mutual aid. The debt was a social bond, a promise between people who depended on one another. The goal wasn't to get rich, it was to keep the community stable and functioning. Crucially, these ancient societies understood the danger of unchecked debt. Rulers in places like Babylon would periodically declare jubilees or clean slates, canceling all debts across the land. This wasn't an act of pure generosity, it was a brilliant act of social engineering. They knew that if too many people fell into permanent debt, it would lead to social unrest, servitude, and ultimately the collapse of their kingdom. Debt forgiveness was a reset button that maintained social balance. But as empires grew, so did the nature of debt. In the Roman Empire, debt became a legally enforceable contract, a weapon of power. If you couldn't pay, you could lose your land, your freedom, and even become a slave to your creditor. For the first time, debt was systematically used to create a permanent underclass. This shift marked a critical turning point. Debt was no longer just about survival, it was about control and exploitation. This harsh reality led to a powerful backlash from major religions. For centuries, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism all had strong prohibitions against usury, the charging of interest. Lending money to someone in need and then profiting from their misfortune was seen as a grave sin, a violation of moral and divine law. The core idea was that money should be a medium of exchange, not a commodity that could breed more money on its own. However, as trade and commerce began to flourish in the late Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the pressure to find ways around these rules intensified. Merchants and financiers developed clever workarounds. Instead of charging explicit interest, they would use currency exchange fees, late payment penalties, or structure loans as business partnerships, where the lender shared in the profits. These were the first steps in rebranding interest and normalizing the idea of profiting from lending. The age of discovery and the rise of colonialism supercharged this transformation. European powers needed massive amounts of capital to fund their expeditions, armies, and trading companies. Debt became the fuel for empire building. Governments started issuing bonds, borrowing huge sums of money from wealthy individuals and newly formed banks, promising to pay it back with interest earned from colonial exploitation and trade monopolies. Simultaneously, the concept of personal credit began to seep into everyday life. In the 17th and 18th centuries, local shopkeepers extended credit to customers, and small-scale moneylenders became common. While still viewed with some suspicion, debt was slowly becoming a normal part of the commercial landscape. It was no longer just for kings and merchants, it was becoming a tool for the aspiring middle class. Then came the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, which created a new world of factories, cities, and a massive working class. This new economy ran on credit. Companies borrowed to build factories, and workers, often living paycheck to paycheck, relied on credit to get by. Debt was becoming deeply integrated into the very fabric of industrial capitalism, financing both production and consumption. But the true industrialization of debt happened in the 20th century, particularly after World War II. The post-war economic boom in America created a new culture of consumerism. For the first time, mass production wasn't just for cars and radios, it was for debt itself. The invention of the credit card in the 1950s was a watershed moment. It was a revolutionary product that allowed ordinary people to borrow money instantly, anywhere, for anything. With the credit card, debt became standardized, mass-produced, and brilliantly marketed as a form of freedom and convenience. Banks realized they were sitting on a gold mine. They could make billions not just from interest, but from a whole ecosystem of fees, annual fees, late fees, over-limit fees. Debt was no longer a simple transaction. It was a complex product designed to maximize profit for the lender. This set the stage for the next, and perhaps most dangerous phase, the financialization of debt, which took hold in the late 20th century. Wall Street geniuses invented a new process called securitization. This meant they could take thousands of individual debts, like mortgages, car loans, or credit card balances, bundle them together into a new financial product, and sell shares of that bundle to investors around the world. These products, like mortgage-backed securities, were incredibly profitable. The original lender got their money back immediately by selling the debt, freeing them up to issue even more loans. Investors got a steady stream of income, but this process detached the lender from the borrower. No one cared if the individual could actually pay back the loan. All that mattered was creating and selling the debt-based product. This created a ticking time bomb. That bomb exploded in 2008. The global financial crisis was a direct result of this system. When millions of American homeowners who had been given loans they could never afford started to default, these complex debt products collapsed in value. The crisis revealed how interconnected and fragile the global economy had become, all built on a mountain of risky, securitized debt. It also exposed the shocking inequality of the system. Banks were bailed out, while millions of ordinary people lost their homes and savings. And that brings us to today. The system didn't just recover, it doubled down. Debt is now more pervasive than ever before. It's in student loans that burden generations, in buy now, pay later schemes that make every purchase a potential debt, in the credit cards we tap without a second thought, and in the government bonds that fund our public services. Our entire economic structure is built on a foundation of borrowing. Your access to life's essentials is now dictated by a 3-digit number, your credit score. This score determines whether you can get a mortgage, rent an apartment, get a car loan, or even get a job. It's a modern system of control where your past financial behavior dictates your future opportunities. And it's a system that inherently favors the wealthy, who can borrow cheaply while trapping the poor in cycles of high-interest debt. The central truth is this: the system is designed to profit from inequality. A wealthy individual with a high credit score is a low-risk borrower and pays a low interest rate. A person struggling financially is considered high risk and is charged exorbitant interest rates, making it even harder for them to escape debt. The system extracts the most profit from those who can least afford it. This is the ultimate transformation. What began as a community-based promise for survival in ancient Mesopotamia has become a highly sophisticated, globalized product. The purpose is no longer mutual support, it's profit extraction. The moral stigma against usury has been replaced by a marketing message that equates debt with freedom, aspiration, and consumer choice. The journey of debt is a story about the evolution of power. It shows how financial systems can be shaped to concentrate wealth and control populations. The individual is no longer just a borrower taking out a loan. In this modern system, your debt, your promise to pay in the future, is the raw material that gets packaged, traded, and profited from. You're not the customer of the debt industry. Your debt is its product. As we move into an even more digital future, with cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance, the nature of debt will continue to evolve. But the fundamental question remains the same. Will it be a tool for human flourishing and social stability, or will it be a weapon of control and inequality? Understanding its history is the first step in deciding what future we want to build. Thanks for watching, and if you found this insightful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives.